Madam.
Understood. Morning, Mayor and Council. Our first presentation is a recap of the last legislative session, and here to present is our intrepid Intergovernment Relations Officer, Bree Franco. Just want to start by thanking Bree and her incredible team for navigating through this session, and she will provide some of the highlights, again, at a very high level, knowing that we're trying to get through this presentation quickly, and it's in your backup materials. Bree?
Thank you, Spencer, and thank you for that warm welcome. Bree Franco, Intergovernmental Relations Officer for the City of Austin. Good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm here to give the briefing. I will go through this quickly. IT, next slide, please. I can't start this presentation without first thanking our delegation and the members of our delegation that were so instrumental in this session having some wins and improving some of the harder legislation as well, and helping to defeat the legislation that would have been, detrimental to the city. You all know who they are, and you all know some of them personally too. And so please, when you do see them, or even if you don't, please send them a note of thanks for all of their hard work and their staff's hard work. We couldn't have done it without them. Next slide, please. So really quickly, this session was one of the most difficult sessions I've actually worked in my over 20 years of doing this, but we did have some positive legislation passed for the city. The most significant being the reform of the Austin Police Retirement System pension. And many thanks to Representative Rodriguez for making that happen and bringing the parties together for an agreed to bill, meaning that the city and the pension system both agreed that this legislation should go forward and pass, and it did. Got there through at the last minute. Also want to thank Senator Zaffarini and others in the delegation, including Representative Israel and others outside of our delegation, on the cloud computing bill that would allow the city to issue debt for cloud computing infrastructure. This is effective immediately. It's already been signed by the governor. Before, the city could issue debt only for the hardware, but couldn't issue debt for particularly the implementation of large cloud computing systems for larger municipalities and other governmental entities. There's other legislation on here that the city did not lead on necessarily, but was supportive, and I know that some of you have asked about before, including the music incubator bill, which allows beverage tax rebate for some of our music venues, did pass this session, so that's good news for them as well. Next slide, please, IT. Moving on to bills, though, that had a more negative effect for the city that passed, and you guys are familiar with a lot of these. First and foremost, the two that took up a lot of attention were the city police funding bill that passed by Representative Goldman out of the House. It only applies to cities 250,000 and larger. They also passed a different bill for counties 1 million and larger, saying that you had to fund at the same level as your budget. For the first 2 years, as the budget passed 2 years ago, if it was greater, or the year before if it was greater, and then going forward, you always have to fund the police department budget at the same amount as the prior year. The camping ban, as you all know, that bill did pass, create a statewide law against camping, and that received a lot of attention as well. And then there are other bills in here that I know that this council cared about. There was a lot of gun legislation passed this year. As you know now, this is a permit, what they call constitutional carry state, meaning you don't need a permit to have to carry a gun any longer, and so forth. Next slide, IT. Going back to, though, as we've always said, it's always harder to pass legislation than it is to not. Only 20% of total bills pass. Yet I will once again thank our delegation and all of you for helping for the bills that didn't pass and the effort that took. That top row was a series of disannexation bills that didn't pass, largely at the end due to points of order called by our House delegation, particularly Representative Howard and Representative, I'm sorry, her name just escaped, Vicki Goodwin. And so we want to thank them for that. And that didn't come without some sort of cost to them. For instance, Representative Craddock, after Representative Howard called the point of order that affected her district, he kicked her bills off the local consent calendar, including a bill that was about women, new mothers receiving home visits from nurses. So again, I just want to point out how thankful we are for their assistance. Another bill that was significant for this council and that many of you answered the call to arms on was that noise ordinance preemption bill that would have said only Austin had to be in the state law regarding its noise ordinance. That would have been citywide the way the bill was drafted. And again, thank you to many of you for yourselves for reaching out to constituents and sharing the message of how problematic that bill would be. We also had the bill affecting the Austin energy rates, did not pass, although it came very, very close to passing. And the others, including the ability to still lobby, and not only for the city to have lobbyists like that we have on our team, but also even to have an intergovernmental relations office. That bill did not pass, although I expect to see that come back during the special session. Next slide. Again, this is another series of bills that did not pass that ended up being a positive result for the city. As you can see, there were a number of areas that they tried to limit city authority and regulate further how a city can do things, including how you can have name monuments and when you can change the names of monuments, just to point out one that may not have received as much attention as before. Next slide, please. And there were some bills that we did want to pass that didn't pass, unfortunately. So again, even though Houston has gotten out of the bracket that says that larger cities can have LIHTC developments within 2 miles of each other, we were not able to get that bill passed despite the efforts of Representative Rodriguez and Senator Zaffirini. I know many of you will hear from Cap Metro soon about their plans regarding the park lease and how that will affect the construction of Project Connect. Still moving forward, and items such as inclusionary zoning as put forward by Councilmember Poole again went to Land and Resource Committee and did not receive a hearing. Next slide, please. And so, you know, there's also a lot of work we had to do just to make some bills that started out very negative to make them better. That included some of these bills here. And it again took the effort of your delegation. Representative Rodriguez worked very hard on the debt definition bill that would have changed how the city can issue debt and whether it had to be voter approved and whether it counted against our no new tax revenue rate. There was also in the press, there was a bill filed about whether pipeline preemption and what cities could do when pipelines are moving into areas. It would have actually affected Barton Springs. The House member Landgraf, Representative Landgraf, was not aware of that. He did work with us to fix it. So there are times when sometimes legislation filed has unintentional consequences, and luckily the members do listen to us when we explain that to them. And so those were all made better and didn't have the effect that we were worried about them having on the city. Next slide. And then there were some bills that basically came out with a neutral effect, yet still were due to very consequential events happening across the state, particularly regarding Winter Storm Uri. Those bills, for the most part, SB 2 and SB 3, don't have a major effect on Austin Energy or city operations. In fact, I will note that Austin Energy received accolades from Senator Hancock in the Business and Commerce Committee for how they successfully managed through Winter Storm Uri and helped the grid stay on for the state. Also, the statewide broadband bill largely is a bill that was for rural expansion of broadband services. So that didn't have as much of an impact for the city as we'd hoped. But we also saw neutral effect related to STR bills. This STR bill by Representative Shaheen actually was more about trying to manage the platforms. There were some bills filed related to STRs that were the preemptive bills we saw last session. The representative who filed them though quickly realized that they had a negative effect, and that was not her intention, so she didn't move them forward. So we didn't see any major STR bills move forward this session at all. Next slide, please. So the session has ended, but the governor has until June 20th to veto bills. He doesn't have to sign a bill for it to go into law, but he can choose to sign a bill. And if he hasn't signed it or vetoed it by June 20th, then it does become law. He can call a special session at any time. It is our understanding that the plan originally was to call one around mid-September. As you just heard from your presentation in the joint county meeting, the census numbers won't be down until about the end of September. And so they need to populate the maps for redistricting to do that, start having meetings, hearings, and so forth. So the special session would start out actually with appropriating the federal COVID funds the state will receive. The House was very much, their goal was that they should have input on how those funds are dispersed. So the special session will start with that and then move into redistricting. So it might be 2 special sessions that go from September through October. Whether there'll be an earlier special session at this point, we don't know. As it has, you all have seen in the press, SB 7, which the Republicans called their election integrity bill, failed to pass. And there was other efforts behind legislation behind that bill that also failed to pass during those last hours of the session. And so we'll see whether the governor just adds those to the call in September or decides to bring back everyone sooner than that. Next slide. That's actually the end of my presentation. There's an appendix attached. Of course, my office is happy to answer any questions. Again, I want to thank the city manager, the mayor and council for all of your help this session, as well as all the staff at the city, because it is a group effort. There are many times I had to send out what I think were calls to arms and also our boards and commissions as well. And everyone responded to those calls to arms. Every one of you played a part, and I thank you for that part. And I thank my wonderful team for all of their hard work and the hours and their dedication. And we'll keep you posted on future news happening with the state. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions at this point.
Thank you. If you could remove the presentation from the screen, please. Colleagues, any quick questions before we do the AEDC? Councilmember Tovo.
Thanks very much, Bree, and thank you to you and Ida and your team for all the tremendous work that you did during this legislative session. I just wanted to say that, and I'm extremely appreciative of those representatives who are just really worked so tremendously hard on behalf of the whole state, but also looking out and assisting us with the issues that would have really had a negative impact here in Austin. As you look to some of the reports that you'll provide later, I'm really interested to know how some of our local delegation voted on some of those bills, including the one that is really more limiting to how we move forward with historic districts, for example. And in addition, to the extent that it's possible and feasible, I know this information exists out there on the state website, but I'm also interested to know how some of our local residents and organizations weighed in, because in some cases it wasn't, some of these bad bills weren't brought by, well, they were brought by other representatives out of town, but they were largely supported by some of our neighbors. And I'm thinking of the noise ordinance in that regard, that this was an effort among some of our local businesses to help pass a bill, to advocate for, and then try to pass a bill that would have really diminished quality of life for residents throughout the entire city. And I think that we need to put some transparency behind those in our community who are advocating against Austinites' interests. And so that's just a request. As you know, I know this work takes a long time, and you and your staff really deserve lots of vacation time off or some downtime. And so I wouldn't expect any of this information to come forward soon. But when it does, if you would just provide us with that information about how our local delegation voted on some of those bills that were detrimental to Austin's interests, and then also some of the key organizations that lobbied for some of those bills would be useful information too.
We'll be happy to put that report together.
Thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions? Councilmember Kassar.
I also just really want to thank you, Bree, and your entire team who worked so hard, and to thank the whole team of lobbyists and community advocates that we work with, many of whom just went above and beyond, especially those who did all the really hard scraping of bills and finding points of order and getting community members to come talk. Is just was such a horrible session for cities and in many ways for Texans. And there was all that extra work being put on you and your team and the folks that we have on contract given that community members didn't have as much access to participation as times past. So I just really want to just double down on acknowledging that work. And even though it was such a horrible session and we didn't get the things we really needed on addressing the grid, on addressing the pandemic, and instead are dealing with continued attempts at voter suppression and addressing and hurting people's basic rights, it still could have been so much worse. And there are thousands of people in our state who will be able to stay in their homes because of work that you did. We will have greater tax equity because of the work that you did to make sure that folks that are a part of the city have to pay for the same services that everybody else that is a part of the city. So there is, you made a really, really big difference. Everybody that worked on this, the whole council and the folks in the delegation all made a big difference, even if it was such a horrible session. So I also want to extend my thanks to the folks in the Travis delegation and the state reps across the state that chimed in to do the right thing. So just thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Walter.
Thank you. Like my colleagues, I appreciate all the work that you did, Bree and Ida, and your staff and our consultants to help us navigate this session. I wanted to highlight the APRS bill. And first, I wanted to see, has that been signed yet?
It has not been signed yet, but it since it passed towards the very end of the session, I'm not surprised it hasn't been signed yet.
Great. So once that is signed, I think it'd be really helpful if City Manager's Office could prepare a memo on that. For those who are not familiar, that is a solution to our pension situation with the police retirement system. I think this was something that we have been negotiating over a long time. Chair the Audit and Finance Committee and myself and our committee members have formed a working group for the pension systems, and this is one of the first solutions out of it. Really want to appreciate Representative Rodriguez helping us to get this over the finish line and to bring everyone to the table so that we could address a shared problem and find a way forward. I want to appreciate Advenino and the City Manager's Office for helping us to prioritize a solution there. This is really important for the fiscal health of our city and for making sure that we are taking care of our officers in retirement, as was promised when they joined our employment. So thank you on that, but I do think that much of that work was done behind closed doors because it was negotiation, and I don't know that the community, our officers, et cetera, fully appreciate the investments and the fiscal soundness of how we approach that. So if we could do that, that'd be great. I'm really excited about the cloud computing. I know that's really technical, something that I added to the legislative agenda a few years ago. And I think it was Representative Israel who helped with that, I believe. And I would just like to ask, I would like some follow-up to understand how much that's going to save us, since that should switch stuff from O&M to debt. And those expenses are getting larger and larger, which is all that much more important as we have the 3.5% rate level. And then lastly, can we get some more information about the Medicaid item and what that's going to allow us to do? I've also been doing work where we've been trying to find ways to take advantage of Medicaid and Medicare and other insurance offerings that the city has not traditionally used. So would love some more information on that.
We will get that to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleagues, yes, Councilmember Kelly and Councilmember Poole.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Bree, and your staff and everyone at the city who worked really hard on all of these issues throughout the session. There's so much that came at us. The fact that you were able to keep us updated on a regular basis was extremely helpful. Finally, I want to thank everybody in the community, no matter how you felt about any bill. The fact that you showed up to talk about it and to get engaged in government is extremely important. And I urge anyone who cares passionately about anything, regardless of how you feel, to reach out and let your voice be heard among those elected officials who lead our government and all levels of our government. Thank you.
Councilmember Poole.
I want to give a real specific shout out to Representative Eddie Rodriguez for helping us bring home the APRS bill. That was a major accomplishment. I am happy to have been part of the concerted effort that Bree and Ed organized and pulled us all together and got us in those virtual rooms together. It made a difference. The good organizing you guys did. And Eddie, thank you. Thank you. It sets the predicate for the next round, which will be for the employees retirement system, where we will need to be doing some equally impactful and difficult work on the funding for our COERS funds. And that affects, except for the firefighters' pension, and that will be the majority of all of the pensions with the city of Boston. And so I feel really good going into the next legislative session in 23 that we will enjoy an equal success. Look forward to continuing that work with you, Bree.
Colleagues? Yes, Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. I will echo the sentiments of my colleagues and thank you for your tireless work or tiresome work. I don't know how you would phrase it. But I know those are some really long, hard hours, and you did a great job of keeping us up to date as a council and individually, and just letting us know of things that should be brought to our attention. And so I appreciate you keeping me up to speed, especially on the disannexation bills, which would have had a detriment to our community. And so I really appreciate that. And thank you.
Thank you.
Colleagues? Just Councilmember Toria.
Yes, Bree. I also want to thank you for the outstanding job. You know, every 10 years, you know, it's just here in the last, since I've been involved with politics, you know, every 10 years, this state comes out and just wants to punish Austin, you know, and it's getting really frustrating to continue to see this happening over and over. You know, we're the lifeline of the state. You know, we provide them the energy that they needed to keep Texas from going into a major disaster with a blackout. So I really want to thank your effort and our representative that have worked really hard. You know, the annexation part of the legislation that you helped us and kept it from going into effect was just a great job. You know, and I just really want to just say thank you.
Colleagues? Councilmember Kitchen.
Yes, I would like to add my thanks to our wonderful delegation, as well as to our staff and to Bree and her team, Ida and everyone. This is very difficult work, and really appreciate all the efforts that you all have made. I would also like to ask you to give us some more information. You can follow up with the changes that the legislature made with regard to telemedicine, and particularly as they relate to telepsychiatry. I'm aware of what the legislature did, but I haven't dug into the details, and that will be very helpful for us as we continue to think about things like our mental health project that we adopted last year, the mental health diversion project that we work with APD on, the use of telepsychiatry, telehealth in general can be useful in that project. So I'd just like to understand more details about exactly what was adopted. I know that that's one of the good things that Texas did this year. So thank you.
I'll follow up. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Fuentes.
Thank you. Bree, my question is, what does the interim look like for your office in working with council offices? Is there anything that I should be expecting, or, you know, because I know during the interim there's going to be committee hearings and all sorts of things going on. And so what's the best way that council offices can engage with your office on the work that you're doing?
So, good question. We will keep you appraised of what is going on during the interim. So when they, first, we're going to have to get past the next special. So let's keep that in mind, that I think the interim is going to be, usually specials happen immediately after a session, and we're not going to have at least one of them that we know of until the fall. And so I don't see interim committees being announced till after that. But once they are announced and we do track those committees, we do determine whether we're going to offer testimony or and so forth. And we do work during the interim on preparing ideas and concepts, either that we're again defending or that we want to promote. And we will develop a process, and we will keep you appraised of all of that going throughout the interim. So I'm going to just highlight, though, and I appreciate all the thanks, that going into the special, it'll be like going back for round 2. And that still means, even though the governor issues a call, any member can file any bill on anything. And so we're going to have to go through that another round on a lot of legislation that didn't pass. I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back. And then we'll go into hopefully a real interim after that. And to be frank, the next session will be here before we know it. It'll go real quickly.
Thank you. And then for, I think it was HB5, the broadband plan bill, I mean, has that been signed yet?
It has, let me double check. I don't believe it's been signed yet. It has not been signed yet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still very curious in following and tracking that piece of legislation as it relates to broadband access. I know we were able to get an urban perspective on the council. And so, I think that is one that's especially important for my area and for Southeast Travis County, and expanding access to Wi-Fi and looking at those disparities. And so I'd be curious in monitoring, how quickly they're able to establish that statewide broadband map.
Yeah, we will monitor the implementation of that as well. And to your point, that is part of the work we will continue to do, is monitor implementation. Some of these bills to require rulemaking authority, will comment and weigh in on that and keep you all appraised of that as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Colleagues? Bree, I want to thank you too. Proud to have been part of that legislative office 20 years ago when you got your earliest and best training and helped launch your career. To your staff, as everybody knows, there's not a lot of sleep involved. A special thanks to our delegation. As a city, we do not make our delegations work easy. We make it hard, and we make it hard on so many different levels. As they have to defend the work of our community, but it also impacts their ability to be able to push forward on their initiatives. Special thanks to the people that really compromised or put in danger their agenda in order to protect the city in ways that we were asking them to do that. Celia Israel, Dean Donna Howard, Vicki Goodwin, all of whom really stepped out in really visible ways, in ways that had real prices to pay for them. But everybody in our delegation paid prices, and everybody in our delegation stepped up when they were asked to do that. Gina did, Cheryl did, Aaron did, everybody did as we moved through this. And yes, I have my appreciation to Representative Rodriguez as well. He actually saw an opportunity that no one else saw, and then was able to deliver on that, working with the larger group as Councilor. He saw that opportunity early when no one else did, thanks to Senator Eckhart, because again, we just make your life really hard. And Senator Zapparini, who really takes an active interest in her Senate district, that is in Austin. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Manager, do we have, thank you. Do we have time, Manager, to do the AEDC before we break for lunch?
We can certainly try, Mayor.
Okay, Councilor Kitchen?
I do have just a small number of questions that I'll need to raise. So.
Okay.
Mayor,
So
what
Mayor-
time are we scheduled to take a lunch break?
We said noonish, and I'm going to see if we could slip in the AEDC presentation and see if we can answer some questions. It's
I
coming.
think it'll take 30 minutes. I mean, just realistically, I think it's going to take 15 to 30 minutes easy.
And let's hold off then. What we're going to do then is we'll take a break here at noon. We're going to reconvene back in executive session and then come back out for the presentation for pulled items and discussion. When